activity, we're going to stay in our same groups, but we're going to reassign the characters because we're going to continue looking at character for our discussion. So you guys will have Pudge, Alaska, the Colonel, and Takumi. And for this one, I want you guys to look at this character and discuss with your group what this character was like at the beginning of the book and compare that to what this character was like at the end of the book and the changes they went through. If they even if you think they went through changes, do you think this character did change or didn't change? Was it a positive change or a negative change? And then we have to fill in the middle part, so we want you guys to find 3 factors that contributed to that change. So it could be interactions with people, events that happened, conversations they had. And for your first 2 factors, you don't have to cite anything, you can just talk about it based on what you remember from the book. Or you can use your book if you need to. But for your third one, we want this to be the climax of the character and what is like kind of the pinnacle of their change. And for this one, we would like you to find a specific passage in the book that refers to that factor. So you can either read the whole passage, paraphrase the passage, just give us a page number so that we can follow along. And does that make sense to everyone? Do your best to come up with 3. And good. Go ahead. Start.
Yeah. I don't know what other passage is.
Who do you have?
Pudge.
Pudge, okay.
What were you saying you thought the climax was? When Alaska dies. Or when he finds out Alaska dies. I don't know.
I think the
Maybe
climax
before.
of his change might be during his religion class. Because isn't that where he like comes to some conclusions about what life means?
I'd have to reread it.
Let's say you read. There is a scene that really stood out to me that kind of felt like the transformation where he realizes that how his actions affect people and kind of how everyone is impacted. And it was when he saw Alaska's dad, and it says, "I couldn't believe what I had done to him. His eyes glittering green like Alaska's, but sunk deep into dark sockets, like a green-eyed, still-breathing ghost." Because it kind of feels like he's like, oh my gosh, like this actually impacted more people than just me.
Yeah.
So that kind of stood out to me. That was page 151.
I do think that's like a major climax that he has, just because like when Alaska died, I kind of just thought it only affected him, and like he was kind of like selfish in the way that he was thinking, like, oh, I'm the only one who's affected by this, so I have a reason to like be mad and upset and just let go and stuff. And then I think when he sees Alaska's dad, he realizes that he's not the only person who like she touched that like changed their lives. Like that's just what her personality is like. She has the ability to change people's lives for the better, kind of, even though her life wasn't the best. Yeah.
I think that's a good.
Should we go for that?
Yeah.
So what do you guys think he was like at the beginning, like before he had the realization?
Well, I think what I saw is that his change is really intentional, because one of the first things he talks about, like within the first chapter, is so I don't have to wait until I die to start seeking a great perhaps. So he's like leaving his family to intentionally try and change and grow. And he does, it just happens in ways that he wasn't really expecting, with a lot more pain. But personally, I don't think growth is possible without pain. Right? So I think that's his lesson in like growing up. And so I think he's just much more of an adult by the time the book ends.
So do you guys have a first pivotal moment or event that kind of started his change? Have you talked about that yet?
I think starting to fall for Alaska might be part of it, because it seems like it's the first time he's really like fallen in love or really wanted to.
Yeah.
or maybe it's just that he has friends.
I guess
Oh, yeah,
his friends is a big thing.
Yeah.
Big step for him.
There's a funny moment at the beginning that I feel like could kind of represent where he's kind of like turning into this reckless, like do whatever kind of guy with his friends. It says, and then somehow the colonel talked me into paying $5 for a pack of Marlboro Lights I had no intention of ever smoking. So it's like you see like the sudden change where he like starts smoking with them and like goes, I don't know, goes with it. But anyone else have any pivotal like turning points at the beginning?
I mean, if you guys just want to set on the fact that he made a friend because, or friends, I think that is still a huge turning point. So if you guys want to just say that, that's fine. So, move on to pivotal moment 2.
I feel like this one should contain Alaska in it for sure. Yeah. Maybe when you stayed over Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
I feel like a lot happened there.
I feel like
And they learn more about each
near the
other.
beginning he was
Stuff like that.
more like unsure.
And he's trusted with
Didn't really see himself as very special or unique or anything.
Yeah.
And was okay being in the background, being spiritual. But then after,
Is your book on your phone? Do you want me to get? I have
No,
my
it's
book.
okay.
Are you sure?
Yeah, fine.
after Alaska died, I feel like that's when he started wanting to stick up for himself more and show them that he had things to say.
I think that Thanksgiving was critical to deepen
Yeah.
the friendship.
I think so.
In that barn discussion, that would sort of create deeper friendships for anyone. That was pretty deep discussion.
Yeah.
If you guys like want more
Yeah, the best day, worst day.
wrap up your
Yeah.
thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they all like rapped together
Yeah.
to show the bonding.
Okay.
Does someone else want to share for this round?
But we need a cite like something we have to correct.
for the third one.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you just want to
Give a page number, give a little quote.
Did we want to use the one of the father?
Who's leading this part? Oh. Yeah.
Does everyone have their examples of however many you can come up with? Sounds good. All right, do we have a group that wants to go first? Or would volunteer to go first? You don't have to want to, but nice. Good. Anyone? Otherwise, we'll start on this side of the room with Pudge. You guys have Pudge, right?
Yeah.
Pudge want to go?
So the first kind of event that we talked about is that he kind of makes friends for the first time at the boarding school. He meant to never really had that before. And that's when he gets introduced to not only his roommate, but Alaskan. That whole thing starts taking place, and then and he ends up deepening his relationship with her, like when he stays Thanksgiving, just the two of them. Then we thought the next part would be like kind of furthering that friendship when they're all in the barn, talking about their best days and worst days, just because that's like, you know, deeper than just their surface level pranks and like bonding over classes that they don't like or different things. These are like more personal connections that he's making. And then we thought that the thing that kind of changed his character is after Alaska dies. I think at the funeral, we have a quote on page 151, and he's just when he's talking to her dad, and he says, "He puts his hands on my shoulders, this man who had grown fat since he last had to wear a suit. And I couldn't believe what I had done to him. His eyes glittering green like Alaska's were sunk down deep into dark sockets like green-eyed, still breathing ghost." And he's talking about this one. I'm reading it. Okay. But he's kind of, at that point, he's realizing that Alaska's death, like, didn't just affect him, but he's affecting his actions or lack of actions, I guess, are affecting him too. That he doesn't really think that she has a deep connection to, but clearly it's still does.
So he becomes more aware of other people and the way they feel towards the end of the book. Yeah, it's really good. Really good. Next crew. You want to go? Carl, you guys? Or no, you guys have
Alaska?
Alaska.
Yeah. We talked about how we thought that Alaska kind of stayed the same throughout the book. She's like thoroughly Alaska throughout the book. So some things that we talked about was like our first introduction to her was her like selling cigarettes and like the way that she lives her life. She's impulsive sometimes and she really wants to figure out the whole question about the labyrinth. So like she and Pudge talk about that one night and then that ends up being her final paper question is how will we ever get out of this labyrinth of suffering? And then when they're looking through her room they find in the book that she wrote like straight and fast. So I think just kind of the way that she lives her life, she does everything kind of straight and fast. So even though there's some changes in her like throughout the book as a whole, she's like staying consistent. She's still Alaska the whole time.
It's good, like the loss of her mother kind of kept her in that one place. Yeah. Colonel?
So we talked about how in the beginning we had this impression that the Colonel was like this really angry and sort of mean guy because of the way that he spoke and the way that he was sort of described throughout the book. And I have like this one quote that Miles says about him. It says, "The Colonel's hatred for hardens, burning with the fire of 1,000 suns." And I thought when I read it, I was like, whoa, like somebody can hate that much. I mean, you're comparing it with the fire, like one sun is enough. 1,000. But then, you know, it was very curious to see how he would develop throughout the story. And then when we got to the middle of the story, you know, we see this one crucial moment when he goes to his house and he breaks for his friends for Thanksgiving and you know that he's a poor guy, and then you understand, you empathize with him because you see how he grew up, and he didn't have the advantages that everybody else had, and they're just like throwing it away or wasting it. And so then one thing also that we saw was that he does have this sort of like weird mind where he says things like, I'm a bad boyfriend, and she's a bad girlfriend, so we deserve each other. So it's like sort of that teenager's thoughts, I guess. And then we see in the end when he completely changes in the way that we see that he developed and he's now matured and he shows his emotions. He's not afraid to show them anymore. He's like a tough guy, but rather just like screams and cries and shows his emotions with his friend because he's Alaska's.
Colonel and just how he is just a little more emotional towards the end, because in the beginning he kind of jokes about everything. You know, he can't really deal with the way he deals with it is with humor, and you finally see the